Making your first million is really hard. But once you make your first $1 million, the second million is inevitable.
Right.
It's like, now it will happen. Just makes it easier to. So writing the first book, I told you.
Let me tell you, I mean, we could get stuck right on that point.
Just one point.
The person you become.
The person you become.
In making that.
In making that.
You know, sometimes we go through motions and possibly miss the opportunity to become.
Yeah.
I think I need you to build a bit more on that. The person you become.
Person
because
you
guess therein lies a lot of what it takes.
Exactly. So, I mean, think about it from an athletic point of view. Like a guy who's trying to improve his times. Training. It's a muscle. Like he becomes faster and faster and faster and keeps training. And his muscles, his calves become stronger. You know, it's a muscle.
Right.
So when he was trying to hit, when Omanyala was trying to hit, you know, under 15 seconds when he started. Right? Trained, hit 15. Now, to do it again becomes easy. To do it a third time, easier. Now he's talking about under 10, closer to 9, right? Because of that hard work that you put in the now he's the person, right? So, me, if I was to try and race with him, I'm not that person. Right? So that person you become. So, like in writing, personally, my personal experience with writing, when I was writing my first book, I didn't know. I mean, I was learning on the job. Of course, my publisher kept sending back things and saying, hey, like this one, you've got it wrong. You need to do this, need to do that. I learned as I was going. But now I became a writer. Then when they say now you're a published author, that's the person that I became, plus all the lessons that I've learned. Plus, all those comments that you get, you know, when you publish a book and it's out there, it's on Amazon and so on, it's being bought by strangers, people you've never heard of. In South Africa, people on LinkedIn will tag you, you know, they look for you. Who's there? They'll read it, finish it. And maybe they'll read it, finish it and say, this guy wasted my 300 rand. And they'll go there and they'll say, you know, the two people who comment are the people who really loved it and the people who really...
on either side.
The people in the middle generally don't. It's like when you go to a hotel. If it was just okay, you'll take off. But if you're blown away, you will tell them. If you are pissed off, you will go online, you'll go on X, formerly Twitter, and talk about it. So I took all the
advisors. This place is a piece of
these guys do not come here again. So those comments, and also there are friends of mine who read, people who are familiar with me, and I asked them, guys, tell me, what did you think? And some maybe will tell me, you know what, I didn't finish your book. Right? And coming again to the restaurant scenario is when the chef in the back, when plates come back and they are half eaten, it tells him a message. Yeah, dude, you need to improve. Yeah. So the guys who told me they didn't finish, and most of them maybe it was niche based, because they found the Masters of Money appeals more to people from a finance perspective. Yeah. So that gave me the message that, you know, simplify more. So all those improvements went into the CEO X factor. So the second book was so much easier to write. So much easier to write because of the person that I became and the lessons that I learned. When Omanyala was struggling to hit under 10 seconds, he learned a lot of things he was doing wrong. I don't know what they do with runners. Maybe you need to throw your arms higher. I don't know.
There's a science to it.
There's a science to it. There is something. He learned that.
And it becomes proprietary to you.
Exactly. So that's what I actually did, and that's why I can say, without a shadow of a doubt, the impact of the book CEO X factor and the reception and the sales and so on, the number of invitations I get to speak and interviews such as this is as a result of the person that I became in writing the first book.
And you know, that lesson is just absolutely profound. Because the big deal is not about the first million, it's actually the who you become.
The who you become. The who you
that
become.
who you become can easily replicate it again, scale it,
Exactly.
sustain it,
Exactly.
spread it,
Exactly.
improve on it,
Yeah.
and it is seen.
Exactly. So the attributes that you develop, those attributes, what are they? What is that X factor that you get for the success? And in fact, that's why the book is called the CEO X Factor. Because I was trying to ask each CEO, I mean, these guys, they earn $5 million. And then you start wondering, this guy earns $5 million. I mean, and we know our Kenyan exchange rate. Why do they pay this? This guy goes to work 8
To 5.
to 5.
Right.
Okay, let me say it goes 8 to 8 because they work hard. I also work 8 to 8. Why is his hour so much more valuable? What is it about him?
Right.
What is your X factor?
Right.
So that's what I asked them. And the X factor is not a single thing. It's a situational thing. It depends on the situation. So some people are very good in structured environments, like in an audit firm and so on. You work where there's policies and procedures. Other people, they do well in an environment where it's entrepreneurship. Like, guys, we move.
Yep.
Hey, there's an opportunity there.
Let's go for it.
Let's go for it.
Right.
Hey, let's expand. But when are we moving? We are doing so well in Nairobi. Are we doing Nakuru or not? Not too much due diligence and so on. The guy goes and walks around Nakuru and says, guys, this thing can work here.
If all these people are here,
I'm telling
there
you,
must be an opportunity
there's
here.
an opportunity.
Right.
We don't need to overthink it.
Right.
So some people have different X factors, and that's what I tried to document. So again, I got 31. And by the way, why I have 31 here and I have 31 here?
Is it the same organizations?
No. Well, that was one thing that made it easier.
Right.
Because, of course,
I saw some similar organizations in between the two.
NetBank, for example,
Right.
I tell the NetBank CFO, hey, dude, I'm writing a CEO book.
You want to be part of it?
No, hook me up with your CEO.
Your CEO, yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, and then the CEO says, who is he? No, he wrote the book on CFOs. Ah, cool, I'm in.
Yeah.
So also, the person you become.
Right.
I became a reputable.
Right.
And if I'd burnt my bridges in my first book, with my second book,
It would have been a struggle.
Exactly.
Right.
Because we talked about brand as well.
Right.
My brand, my relationships, my interactions, the respect that I showed these people. I didn't go and write things that they didn't tell me, falsehoods. Otherwise, they'd never get to the next
They'll never
level.
notify them now because
Exactly.
you're 1 inch higher now.
Exactly.
Right.
Probably be suing me for defamation.
Right.
So that was one thing. And then, when you get that, this 31, sorry, I was coming to
And
the
by the way,
reason
that is also profound in itself.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
also profound. I mean, because then it means that then how you handle the CFOs, give them the confidence to vouch for you on the next level.
to the CEOs.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Right.
And that's another thing also in, it's actually an important thing not to you shouldn't look down on people. Is another thing, and especially in this writing thing. Don't just treat the PA, she's a PA, what does she want? Because these people, those are confidence. And in fact, I don't know, I was watching, I think, a documentary or one of a successful person saying, like, he likes to meet people at restaurants and watch how they treat the waiters. And that tells them everything that they need to do.
Right.
Or they play a game of golf with someone, and that tells you everything about what you need to know because of how he treats his caddy. How does he respect the rules? Is he a patient person? Let other people play when it's their turn, that kind of thing. So why I have 31 in each of these books is because of 31 days in a month. So this book has 31 chapters.
Right.
And my sell is you can read this book in 1 month.
Right. A chapter a day.
A chapter is 5 pages.
Right.
Yeah, it's 5 to 10 pages.
Loaded with wisdom.
Loaded with wisdom.
Experiences and etc.
Don't tell me you can't read 5 pages a day. You're done.
You should.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's why I decided that I'm going with 31 chapters. So I got the top 31 CEOs, and with this one we actually put the faces because they are known. I mean, if I do a Kenyan version, you'll have Peter Ndegwa, James Mwangi, you'll have Anne Muraya there.
Right.
You'll have faces of people that are recognizable.
Yeah. And again, man, I mean, you go for the cream, KC, man. It's MTN here. It is Discovery Health.
It's Vodacom.
It is Vodacom and Vodafone. It is Bidvest. It is Alexander Forbes.
Exactly.
It is all of these wonderful Capitec.
And the mining companies. Because in SA, the top companies are actually the mining companies. So that economy was built on mining. On diamonds, gold, coal. Those are the people who run the economy. They are the guys who call the shots. So those were also people that I needed to speak to and to get their X factor.
Correct.
What is that thing that made you successful? What is that thing that makes your organization successful? So talking about Capitec, for example, this Capitec guy says people buy simplicity. If something is difficult to do, I mean, if you're simplifying people's lives, people will take it. I mean, we're talking about AI, you and I, before we started the interview. AI is making your life simple. You'll buy into it because of that. Because things that were taking you a whole day now can take you, 5 minutes, right? Because if I told you to write an article on something, it will take you a day. Now, with AI, if the data is fed properly, you'll get the same thing within, in fact, I'm calling it 5 minutes, yet the likes of ChatGPT are seconds, and they actually spew it out. So, that is the reason why I called it the CEO X Factor, because I was talking about what is that X Factor for you to achieve success.
And that X Factor is a question we all must ask ourselves. And I want us to pick a couple of them, because then I think I've listened to you speaking to some of these lessons.
Yes, you came to my thing on Wednesday. Thank you very much.
Boss. By the way, it also felt different listening from me. It felt really rich. It felt really rich, and just how you give it life and all of that stuff. Absolutely brilliant. I think the X Factor is a question all of us must ask ourselves. And asking you, the viewer, man, what's your X Factor, man? What gets you differentiated from everybody else? And what really is your X Factor? And maybe as you try to figure out that answer, I want you to pick some of these guys that some of these great leaders. I mean, they are leading massive enterprises and successful businesses. And I just want to give you the liberty just to speak into some of them. We may not go into all the 31, but let's just pick a couple of them.
Wow, there's wonderful stories, man, in terms of what the X Factor is. I always start with Mteto Nyati. I mean, this guy is an impressive guy. He went MTN, he was the CEO. Microsoft South Africa, he was the CEO. IBM in South Africa, he was the MD, right? So he was a top CEO. But he was not just a CEO. He took what he had learned, left corporate, and started his own thing. So BSG is a really big consulting company in South Africa, and he's the executive chairman, right? So Mteto Nyati, impressive guy. I asked him, what is your X Factor? And one of the things that came out strongly for him is a quote that he likes to recite, which is, the road to success has got many parking spaces. Imagine if you're going somewhere and there are so many people, so many of your viewers here are on their road to success, but they're in a parking space. Because they were driving, then they saw a spot to go and park.
They pulled over.
And they've been in that spot forever.
They got comfortable at the parking lot.
Got comfortable at that parking lot. Parking spaces. People who are in companies, they could probably do better in another company because of blind loyalty to their employer. They're in that same company. They're sticking around there. For example, people who have businesses that are doing well, it's good, but it's not great. Right? And they say good is the enemy of great. Because you get comfortable. Are you really doing your maximum potential? Is that really the best you can do? Or can you be better? Right? So that's one thing that he talks about. The idea of parking spaces. There's another lady who talks.
And isn't it true that a lot of us we get comfortable?
Yeah, we get comfortable. It's the nature of human beings.
It's the nature of human beings.
It is the nature of, we don't like to be uncomfortable. Right. In fact, that's the reason why we don't end up learning. Because you need to be uncomfortable in order to learn something. The only time you've learned things is when things are in... And the problem is we love the good times. But the problem is we learn nothing in the good times. We learn absolutely nothing in the good times. You only learn when things... And that's why even you must always challenge yourself. And if you are in a leadership position, you must challenge your people. Don't let them just do the same things they do all the time. Give them stuff that you know will make them very uncomfortable.
Right. Stretch them.
Stretch them.
Right.
That is how they learn. That is how they'll progress.
Throw them in the deep end.
Throw them in the deep end, see how they...
Let them learn a new skill as well.
As long as when they're in the deep end and it's safe. Right? No, I mean...
They won't get on duty.
Exactly.
Right.
They won't break stuff and then, you know, the company goes into disrepute. For example, I wouldn't say, you know, just give your bank teller the cyber security thing to go and manage. Hey,
no,
don't do that.
Right.
Leave that to the
within
professional.
reasonable limits.
Exactly.
Right.
But
keep building it up.
Exactly. But the bank teller, call her in and have her sit down and let her negotiate a rate with a corporate for whatever. While you sit there and you're basically supervising the thing.
Right.
Bring them into a board meeting and tell them, you know what? By the way, I need you to give me minutes after this meeting.
Right.
Something that they've never done.
Right.
Stretch them.
Right.
And out of that, they will learn. That discomfort makes them learn. I mean, before I wrote a book, I had never written a book.
Right.
But of course, that being in that discomfort, writing stuff and sending it to my publisher and the publisher ripping it to shreds is what helped me learn.
Right.
So that's another thing. Don't be shy about discomfort. Discomfort, when you're uncomfortable, is when you end up learning stuff. Yeah.
And not only do I depend on someone else to throw me, I must also have a drive myself.
I'm telling you, you must be ready to dive yourself in the deep end.
Right.
In fact, one thing that many of them say, there's another lady, she runs Momentum, which is a health, she's the first female CEO of Momentum, the biggest one of the biggest insurers in South Africa. Not health, but in other classes of insurance. And she says the one thing that she, in fact, struggles a lot with the younger generation is that they're not willing to, they have too much choice, for example. They're too invested with the idea of work-life balance. You know, like, no, man. Me, 5 p.m. is my time. You know?
I gotta go.
It's the people who will actually, you know, put their hand up and even put their hand up and actually say, I'm looking to do this. I want to be there. You know, if your employer doesn't know that you want to move to the next level, you want to sit there and expect them to guess that you want to move to the next level. I know you're going to come to talk about CFO,
right?
East Africa.
Yes.
RISPA. In fact, that's one thing that I mean, we both know RISPA.
Yes.
That's one thing she told me in our interview for this publication, is that put your hand up. And tell them, hey guys, I want to be the finance manager. I want to be the CIO of this company.
I want to do this.
I want to be this.
Right.
I mean, there's only, what do you have to lose? One, either they will say, oh no, you're not good enough. Or they'll say, oh, yeah, actually, we can put you on the track to be developed, to become that. So there's nothing to lose.
Express the interest.
Everything to gain. Exactly.
Throw your hand up.
Throw your hand up, show initiative.
Right.
And then ask guys, you know what? I see you normally do this thing. Can I do it
Teach
this
me
time?
this.
Yeah.
Right.
Teach me.
Right.
Or let me try. Or after you've been taught, let me do it today.
Right.
Boss, you go home early today. I'm going to stick around afterwards and do it.
Right.
X factor for success.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
A hunger for learning.
Right.
Curiosity.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's interesting because some folks will just sit there and say, I'm sure boss can see me.
Yeah, exactly.
And
sure
boss is not a mind reader, man.
He's not. And he's got so many things.
And many other people that they're looking after.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So many things and so many, he's got fires that he's fighting and so many other people that he's looking after.
Right.
That maybe when that position opens up, you know, it fascinates me when positions open up in companies and the companies go and hire from somewhere outside. That's really, for me, it's an indictment on the people who are below there. Because, you know, for example, in a company, a CEO has left or a CFO has left. And then the CFO who replaces him comes from outside. For me, that's an indictment in the people below that. Because that you guys were not there, like, you know, you need to be the stand-in. You need to be the next in line. And it should be known.
Right.
Once, if they know Chomokas from here where he is,
next in line.
I am there.
Right.
I mean, it should be a no-brainer. I'm the guy who was meant to replace him. Yeah. But people, I don't know.
And you see, part of the how and unpacking that how is possibly things like showing initiative.
Showing initiative. When you're given X to do 2X.
Right.
Or do X and Y. Initiative.
Don't just do X only.
Exactly.
Right.
Go the extra mile.
Right.
Going the extra mile. A lot of examples have been given in there of extra mile. There's lots of other X factors that people have come up with and other lessons that they've given on I became CEO because this is what I did. And this is what I did different from the other people who are next in line.
Right.
People who are CEO young. There's one lady there who's the CEO of Bidvest. You mentioned Bidvest.
Right.
I mean, Bidvest is the biggest diversified group on any stock exchange in Africa. The company is 40 years old. She's 39 years old.
Younger than the company.
Younger than the company.
Right.
The company was formed before she was born.
Right.
And it's gone through a whole growth path. And she skipped so many people to get to her position. And you know, one challenge that black South Africans face is that some of them feel like when they're given positions, people think, it's just the thing of, you know, trying to show we are a transformation company. So that's one challenge that they face. When I met with this woman and spoke to her, her brilliance shone through. She talked about how she differentiated herself. So, she was given the tiniest company in the group. The group does many things, does motor, does industrial, does logistics, does many things. What she was given was the cleaning company. Cleaning. Kusafisha. Corporate cleaning. They go to offices, they clean the offices. Right? She like doubled the revenue of that company in no time. And I asked her, how do you double the revenue of a cleaning company? Because cleaning is cleaning.
It's either clean
or dirty. I mean, when people walk into, and cleaning is not exactly a difficult science. I mean, if you, today were given a contract to clean, you know, Safaricom's building, I mean, you will just go out there and look in the market, what are the best mops, hire people to clean the place. Right? So it's not a difficult thing. But what she told me is this: she treated it like a mathematical problem. Understand what the customer value proposition is and work back from that. So this is her strategy. Say she doesn't have the contract for Safaricom. She goes and takes Safaricom's information and reads all that Safaricom information and digests it and understands Safaricom's biggest deal right now is maybe sustainability. Right? They're talking about sustainability, climate, and so on. So when she goes to Safaricom with a proposal, the proposal is just around sustainability, saying we will not just clean your offices, we'll use the best chemicals for the environment. Right? We are also going to be doing social programs and so on around the cleaning. Or the revenue that you're going to give us, we are going to put 1% into this and into that.
We'll plant some trees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking into what they want to hear and what matters to them the most.
Your language. And that, it ties in with another and allow me to transition to another. Who says her X factor is the 5 love languages. Which is amazing. I'm like, what do you mean the 5 love languages? I did that book before I got married. You know, where they say everyone has a love language. They know you probably know these ones better than me. I used to be a preacher.
Well, you become way more experienced now.
Maybe. Like they'll say some is physical touch, some is gifts, some is words of affirmation, some is acts of service, right? And why she says that book applies in the corporate context, in the business context, is that she says every customer has a love language. Every employee has a love language. You need to understand of your employees, what is their love language. You know, you find that this one is motivated by money. This one is motivated by compliments. Whenever they do something, if you come and sit them down and say, Dennis, you know what I loved about what you did today was this. Right?
They feel affirmed.
They feel affirmed. Right? Others, maybe it's they like gifts. Right? So an employee, when you come and you give them a voucher for Carrefour,
go and do some shopping
for 2,000 shillings. I work for the best boss. So understand what the love language is of your employees. Right? So that also is an X factor. They said understanding those love languages was my X factor for success. I had the happiest team, and because of having the happiest team, these guys would stay late. Like if we had something to deliver on the weekend, you know, there are many people here when the boss calls them on the weekend, they won't answer.
Right.
They'll just be like, oh, sorry, I didn't see your call. Oh, I had traveled or whatever. They will not go to bat for you when the chips are down.
Right.
But if your team is happy, you phone them on the weekend, they say, you know what, I'll even come to the office.
Right.
I'll come to the office. For you,
I'll work for you.
I'll work for you.
Right.
Because you're speaking their love language.
Correct.
Yeah, so those are some of the X factors. Some of the, I'm telling you, I forget about writing the book and the success. I personally was impacted by engaging with these guys and their brilliance, and the guys telling me the things that they have used, which are not the conventional things. Because if you ask anyone, what is the X factor for success? They'll say hard work. They'll say perseverance. They'll say these things. Even the whole do 2X instead of X is maybe not something that you've never heard of. But some of these things like 5 love languages, you know, solving for customer proposition and working backwards like a mathematical formula. Parking spaces were things before I wrote the book, were concepts that I had not really familiarized myself with. And I definitely think that, and I've seen, I'm always, every other day, I'm always being tagged on LinkedIn. I'm always getting messages and so on. You know, when a book sells, you know, thousands of copies, there's so many people who've read it. And if you're accessible online, people can get hold of you, and you know, people asking for mentorship, people willing to be paid to be coached and things like that. It's been something that's really changed my life. You know, this CEO X Factor book.
Casey, man, there are a couple of them that we can't go without talking about, man. I mean, there's this guy who talked about the hierarchy of competence.
Yes.
And I found that concept extremely fascinating.
The hierarchy of competence.
The hierarchy of competence, man.
Which builds up to the idea of comfort from Mteto Nyati. So hierarchy of competence, I mean, this is a concept been covered in a number of books. You can find it online, but of course people talk about it and how it's impacted their career. So hierarchy of competence starts with, there's 4 levels.
Right.
1, there's unconscious incompetence. You don't know that you don't know. Right?
It's a dangerous place to be. You don't know that you don't even.
There are so many people there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you encounter a lot of people. You're like, this guy.
Yep.
I wish you knew that you don't know.
Yet we are displaying ignorance unknowingly.
I mean, have you ever been somewhere, someone is doing something wrong, and you look at them and you're like, this guy, I wish he knew. Yep. If he could just do this, it would be so much simpler.
Right.
So he doesn't know. He thinks that's how it is done.
Right.
Right. So imagine a person who has all his life lived in a village and he's always used a djembe. And he doesn't know that he can be able to get something that does what the djembe does in absolutely no time. I mean, I'm sometimes have that unconscious incompetence. I bought a car a couple of years ago, been driving it normally. Then one time I'm driving it and my friend says, boss, do you know how this car has some other, let me show you some things. We swap and it's raining and the guy changes the modes and so on, and this thing is like, the guy was doing some things with the car. Or a phone. You buy a phone and you just take normal photos, and then one day someone says, bring your phone, I show you how this thing. It does some things, boom, 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 filters, unconscious incompetence. Second thing after unconscious incompetence is conscious incompetence. So I know I don't know, right? I know I don't know. So for example, you say, you know what, I really don't know how to work with the computer. It's a space. Operations, I don't know how it works. I've always been in finance. Sales, I don't know how they do their sales pipeline program and so on, right? So that's conscious incompetence. So you then go and bridge the gap. Most people will go and pursue training to bridge the gap. Conscious incompetence. Third one is conscious competence. You know you can do it. So I know I'm able to do these things. So when a task is given to you, you are conscious that you have the competence.
Over there, the confidence is all the way up.
The confidence is all the way up. It means that you basically are always thinking about the fact that you can be able to do it. And then there's another one called unconscious competence, the last one, where, you know, when they say I can do this thing with my eyes closed, or just like now, you have unconscious competence. You're breathing, but you're not thinking about breathing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a competence that you have. Only until like the day that your nose is blocked, you have a flu, is when you actually realize, hey, kumbe, this competence of breathing is an important one. So there's so many people in their spaces of conscious competence and unconscious competence, which are dangerous places to be, right? Because then you're comfortable, and that's why you need to move on and go to the, within that hierarchy, you must always try and move to the next and discover new things to learn and become a more whole person and professional.
One of the parts that I'm most worried about is this thing you're calling unconscious incompetence. Because I mean, nothing gets to be a blind spot greater than unconscious
you don't know that. You don't
even know that.
Let me tell you, right now there's a lot of unconscious incompetence that we see.
Right.
Because there's things that are being done out there that perhaps we are not applying in our own personal lives and in our own organizations.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
Because we are using systems that are so old school, maybe.
Yep.
And there's newer systems that are doing this so much faster.
Right.
And unless you're open-minded,
Yep.
You're never going to grasp that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is definitely an issue.
No, it's a dangerous sport, man. I mean, I would hate to imagine that then I stand on a podium to demonstrate and to display my unconscious incompetence. And sometimes you do it so confidently, you don't even know me, man.
You do. Yeah. I mean, look, the fact that you're unconscious about it is the fact that you don't do anything about it.
And the problem is that
because you don't know.
The people who are conscious, they see.
And they see, but maybe
so you're the only guy who doesn't realize that you're not competent on that sport.
They won't tell you.
They won't even tell you.
You're like that father who comes home and the kids and the wife are laughing at you.
Yep.
And you're wondering, what's the joke?
Right.
Yeah. Because you're the only one who doesn't know. This guy thinks he knows, but he doesn't know.
You know, when I'm reminded of the days we used to do high school, man, and after the exam, guys are saying, do you remember question number 10, man? Did you?
And then you went.
Guys asking for graph papers and you
remember those guys who are asking for, you're seeing, looking around and seeing people using their protractor. And you're wondering,
where did they apply?
Which question is this? Yeah. That's firstly unconscious competence, then it becomes unconscious incompetence becomes conscious incompetence. Because now you're conscious, clearly I am incompetent.
But you're not even sure where the incompetence lies.
You have no idea. Where does this stem from?
Yeah. I know that resonates so well with the next comment, and I think one of the lessons of the change agency. And the guy who says, man, if you only stick within the village, you may only think this is the it.
Correct. Change agency, that hunger and curiosity to be a change agent, to change things for the better, right? There's a joke that the only person who enjoys change is a baby with a wet diaper.
Right.
Everyone else doesn't enjoy change.
Right.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
Right.
But this guy talks about the village mentality, getting out of the village.
Right.
If you're only in a village, right, you think this is it.
Right.
Tena, you're the one who has a stone house and everybody has a wooden one.
Right.
You think this is it.
You're the most accomplished guy around, man.
You're a wooden one, you see the guys with a stone house, you think, man, that guy, if only I can get there.
Right.
Then you get out of the village and you go a bit, then you go to a town.
Right.
This, in fact, for me is something that I witnessed growing up.
Right.
With the guys, my guys in Baringo, you know, where the guys in Kabartonjo used to talk about Nakuru like, oh, you're going to Nakuru,
it's a
Nakuru.
City.
Hey, Nakuru, bana. Nakuru.
Right.
So that guy, when you take him out of Nakuru and you bring him now to Nairobi, then he's like,
shock.
What? Then you put him on a plane.
Right.
And you take him to London or New York. Right. So you always must be thinking about getting out of that village, out of the town, out of that city, onto the plane, and so on. Right? So that next change agency, and change agency right now is driven by technology.
Right.
Machines are doing a lot more, and it's not to replace us. If you can be able to use it, it gives you the competitive advantage.
Right.
So you need to wrap your head around the tools that are out there.
They complement you.
Yeah, that make your work easier.
Right.
So that instead of, especially if you're doing anything that feels manual and repetitive,
right,
you are definitely doing the wrong thing.
Right.
I can tell you guaranteed there's something out there
that will replace you.
I'm telling you that you can be able to use to do that,
right?
So that now you begin thinking big picture
something,
stuff.
yeah,
Be strategic,
right?
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
Right.
So that's
right.
in fact that guy. We shouldn't move off him before mentioning.
Right.
Kolisi.
Yep.
Ngojo. Inventor of
just do the South African.
Kolisi. Yeah. Kolisi.
Well,
so that's the X.
I'm not even going to try that.
Kolisi. I can teach you quickly. X is, and then C is,
okay,
and then Q.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway.
Okay.
So Kolisi is the guy who invented the first digital mine, because he was like, you know what, mining is complex. We're having safety issues. People are dying in the mines. We are seeing a situation where, forget about dying in the mines, we are seeing a situation where, other than safety, these staff are always rioting, especially in South Africa, clamoring for more wages. We can mechanize a lot of these things. A lot of these things can be done digitally. Put in cameras that go there, that detect when there's a leak and so on, right? And we can use robotics.
Right.
So as I said, he's saying technology is his X factor.
Right.
That's what changed things for him. Yeah.
Right. And he's been able to apply that skill now.
Exactly. Now he was rated Africa's business leader of the year by CNBC Africa.
Wow. Getting more done much more efficiently, less disruptions.
Exactly. Thinking out of the box. And in fact, what he did is that he took his team to get them out of the village mentality, paid for them, his team, to go to, I think, Germany, to some, what's it called, innovation lab for months. For them to just open up their thinking.
Right.
That's what he did. That was his X factor.
Investment of the mind.
Exactly. Just changing of mindsets.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But there's also this concept that I found very interesting in terms of decision making, and I think it was called the 40-70.
The 40-70 rule. Colin Powell's 40-70 rule.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I, the example that I give is a personal one on the 40-70 rule.
Right.
When I go for dinner with my lovely wife.
Yes.
I take the menu, and the first thing that I see, which looks interesting, I say, nipe hiyo. Because I make so many decisions during the day.
Right.
My job is very taxing.
Right.
I take so many decisions that I don't make another decision when I'm now ordering food.
Right.
My wife is the complete opposite.
Right.
She takes the menu and starts studying it.
Yep.
Calls the waiter for an interview.
For an interview.
And this one, when it's served with this one, she takes the guy through like the whole menu before she decides.
Right.
And then eventually she starts eating my food after doing all that. So
after the interviews, then she still comes back for your friend.
Still eats mine. I don't know why. What is it with women? Anyway, so that is the 40-70 rule in application.
Right.
I'm doing it wrong. She's doing it wrong.
Right.
You should not make a decision with less than 40% of the information. So me picking the first one, I'm probably missing out on a better meal.
Right.
By just picking the first one.
Because you don't have enough information.
I don't have information.
At least a threshold. There's a threshold of information.
And that threshold has been weighed to be about 40%.
40%.
Yeah. 40%.
So if you have 40% of the information, you can make a decision.
You can make a decision that will be a good decision.
So I don't need 90%.
Don't need 90%.
40 is good enough.
40 is good.
Okay.
Now, of course, more than 70 is also good, but it has a huge disadvantage. Trying to get 100%. First of all, my wife going through the entire menu is time consuming.
Right.
She's wasting the waiter's time. Right? And
also you think.
Especially if it's a good restaurant. Yeah. That's what. But in truth, it's too much information. TMI. Right. So, and also in business, for example, if you're waiting to get 70%, we're talking about a couple of banks that have gone now into DRC, right? If you're waiting and you're trying to gather as much information about DRC before you go there, someone's going to leapfrog you.
Right.
And the target that you wanted to acquire, the bank you wanted to buy, will be bought by someone else.
Right.
Because you're
busy. You're still debating.
As you're still dilly-dallying.
Analysis, paralysis at some
As
point.
you're saying, should we open up a branch in Meru of our college?
Right.
We have a university. Should we open a branch in Meru or in Embu or in Kabartonjo? As you're thinking about that, a guy is going to leapfrog you and get in there.
So by the time you're having the full perfect information, then you're already late.
You're going to be overtaken by competitors and it will get too late.
Right.
So 40 bottom, 70 maximum. Anything in between there, you have enough information for you to make a decision.
Right.
That is Busisiwe Mavuso.
Right.
Great concept. And she gives it to me in her application as CEO of Business Leadership South Africa.
Right.
Amazing.
Right.
Amazing.
Right. I relate something to something someone also taught us, and he was talking about the principle of satisficing. And he says, if you have enough information to make a decision now, make. Should you proceed and find material additional information that causes you to change the initial decision, don't be afraid. Take another decision and just keep going. But don't just keep waiting to...
And then they say a no decision is worse than a bad decision.
Right.
Just sitting and waiting doesn't work.
Right.
You'd rather make a bad decision, as you're saying, and work it. Because also, the quality of decision is based on the information you have at the time. Right? It's simple.
Right.
Like, I mean, we don't know the future.
Right.
Like when COVID happened, we didn't know how long it would last. We didn't know what the impact would be.
Yep.
You have some information to make a decision at that point. Make the decision. Don't just sit and, hope everything is going to work magically. It's not going to.
Right, right. And maybe, and I can just pick one more lesson I picked. I think it's an innovation question, because I think it ties very closely to that. Because even innovations are about information, decision making, and etc. And I think there's this wonderful friend of ours, I think he's in the medical space. And talks about innovation. Yep.
So he was talking about the COVID innovation.
Right.
He's called Ryan Noach.
Right.
He was the CEO of Discovery Health again.
Right.
We mentioned the biggest healthcare company, healthcare insurance company in Africa by a mile. And they even invested in China and other places. So Ryan Noach was talking about when COVID happened. Of course, they were massive claims. And they were trying to figure out how do we stop these claims. And the guy came up with a very innovative idea. You are sick at home, they know, with COVID. You are going to infect your wife and your kids. Then now we are going to have many claims. So the best thing for me is to take you out of that environment. Maybe there are no beds in hospitals, because there were no beds. So what did he do? He said, you know what, it's COVID. Nobody's traveling. Hotels are empty. He went to the hotels and struck a deal with the hotels to take patients. Turned hotels into hospitals.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's like, you know what? It's cheaper for me to pay someone's hotel bill in a hotel than for him to stay at home, infect everybody else, infect everybody. And then also, even I don't want the patient to die.
Right.
This is actually...
Because now that is a risk factor to all of them.
Exactly. Forget about just the fact that there's an economic thing.
There's a threat to life.
There's a threat to life.
Right.
The patient, how is the patient going to think of me afterwards? But they, dude, I you know what? I couldn't get a bed in a hospital, but this healthcare company put me in a hotel, made sure I was taken care of there, made sure that my family was not being infected by my sickness.
So they were protected.
Exactly.
Right.
So he was saying innovation. And to him, think innovatively. To him, problem is synonymous with opportunity. That's his X factor.
Right.
In fact, he tells his team, don't come to me with a problem until you can tell me here is the opportunity.
Right.
How fantastic is that?
Right.
That you come and you say, boss, bad news, we've been hacked. That's a problem. What's the opportunity? So there's always opportunity. You can say, you know what, boss, bad news, we've been hacked. The opportunity is for us to build a better and robust cybersecurity system that will withstand even the worst of challenges. Or this hacking sounds to me like there's a big opportunity for us to develop a business line around cybersecurity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Or an industry white paper and become the leaders when it comes to these are the steps that you must take when you face a challenge of cybersecurity.
Right.
Yeah, so there's always tell me what are the opportunities.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Because with every crisis there is opportunity.
And you see, it goes back to what we said. It's not about rehearsing what the problem is.
Exactly.
But you've got to go 2 steps ahead.
Exactly.
And ask yourself, so what are the opportunities?
What are the opportunities
that then lies? And that's a next factor in itself.
Let
me just take 2 more, possibly. And I think one of the ones that I liked a lot was passion for positivity.
Yeah. My good man, Chris van der Merwe, who's got like 500 private schools. in South Africa, and he's got universities and so on. And this guy lost his job, didn't lose his job, went and studied education all the way to PhD level. And he tried to get a job as in a department of education. And they refused to give him the job, gave someone else instead. And that was what spearheaded his leaving the company. And he said he's going to build his own school. Started small, went to a church. So during the Sunday it's a church. It was an old barn. On Sunday it's a church. During the week he ran a nursery school. And from there he grew. And he had this passion for positivity. Yes, he's a white guy, but a majority of his students are black. And what was the reason? What gap did he identify? When South Africa was under apartheid, the white people had wonderful schools. The black people had all these bad government-owned schools, right? Then there was independence. And black people, of course, became more economically endowed, right? But they had nowhere to take their kids to school. So there was this gap in between where they needed to build more schools that cater for the new, more middle income and rich blacks. And that's the niche that he identified.
Right.
And the government was not filling that space due to their own other priorities. And that's how he came up with the Curo brand. Right? A private schooling that's not super expensive, but also has all the facilities that a family of means can be able to pay for their kids through. So that was what he did. So he said, look, if you're looking for positive change, your ladder is leaning against the right wall, right? That's what he says. That's one. Two, you must be passionate. Three, you must be equipped for your passion.
Right. So passion alone is not good enough.
It's not good enough.
Right.
I mean, there are people who say that they want to be something, but I ask them, how have you invested in that thing that you want to become? Right? You say you want to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
Tell me, how much time, I mean, before a guy tells you, I want to start a restaurant, I can tell you already whether that restaurant is going to be successful or not. Right? How much has he invested in understanding, in pursuing that goal? If he tells you, no, I want to be a restaurant, you guy, I've met the 10 most successful restaurateurs.
I've met Frank Mola.
Yeah, Frank Mola.
And he has taken me through Romo.
The guy has taken me through the Romo model.
Right.
And he's told me his lessons learned from his other restaurant that did not work out.
Right.
And why Romo is a success today.
Right.
I know that this guy he tells me, no, dude, I've even done a culinary course. Just to understand, I've gone to Italy and just to understand good food in a Pikwaji. Then you'll know this guy is going to be successful because he's gathering information. He's actually invested the time. So for him, he said because he even went to PhD level as far as education is concerned, studied the landscape of education in South Africa. That is his X factor for success.
Right. He was ready actually to become an administrator in education.
Exactly. And he also turned failure into success.
Right.
He says if he would have got that job, he'd today be a senior person in government.
And this whole other story of enterprise would never have come up.
He'd have had a parking space to tie it to what Mteto Nyati said.
Yes, a parking space.
He'd have parked himself in government in a senior position without thinking about the bigger picture.
So once in a while, we've got to be grateful for some of the open doors.
I'm telling you.
I mean, the closed doors. So that then we then look a little further and ask ourselves, as this closed, which one opened?
No. Next one. And the next one might be actually the best one.
Right.
Correct.
In his case, certainly it was.
Definitely. I mean, he was saying the most proudest moment of his life was to stand in Johannesburg Stock Exchange, Mod Street, and to ring the bell to say, we are open for trading as Curo, his company, became a listed company on the JSE.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's massive.
Yeah.
That's absolutely
and he says,
massive.
As a grade 5 teacher, he calls himself a grade 5 teacher, ringing the bell to open. And I mean, he sold his company for millions to a big investment company, 50% of it. Massive. Yeah.
You don't even want to imagine the amount of impact that journey must have created for multiplied many other lives.
Correct.
And maybe the last one I want to pick out of that, man, it almost speaks to the infinite game, man. Playing.
Oh, infinite game. I love infinite game. Again, from, what's her name? Her name escapes me, but infinite game, Jeanette Marais. she says, play the infinite game.
Right.
All games have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Right.
Right? You play first half, you have the middle, and then you play the end. And South Africa versus Nigeria, AFCON, you watched it just a couple of days ago.
Yep.
Nigeria won on penalties, proceeds to them. That's a finite game, it ends. And many of us have finite goals. My goal is to become the manager of this restaurant, right? That's my goal. It's a finite goal. Because when you become the manager, then what?
What next?
And then, oh, my goal is to run my own restaurant. Finite goal, now you're running your own restaurant. So even the idea of satisfaction just never comes because you're always pursuing finite goals, which is nothing wrong. It's always good to be ambitious. But she says, based on the book called Infinite Game by a guy called Simon Sinek, I think, play the infinite game, right? To say, you know what? I want to be employee of the month, or I want to get a 5-star rating. If maybe every day when people eat, they're given a rating of how good their service was.
Right.
I want every day that to be 5 stars. That's infinite, because once you get 5 stars tomorrow, kesho yake you're here.
You're pursuing more.
Pursuing another 5-star.
Right. For as long as I'm here, it has to be 5-star.
5-star.
Right.
5-star.
Right.
If you're doing 5-star, 5-star, 5-star,
right,
you don't tell me you won't become the restaurant manager.
And most likely the becoming part that we talked about earlier, the who you have then become in the process.
You actually, there you go.
Right.
You're actually now developing that attribute to give good customer service.
Absolutely.
Then the title comes after, and some things, a title is just a title.
Right.
So that will come afterwards.
Right.
If you're gunning to be employee of the month in January, January mepita, you need to do it again in February.
Right.
In March.
Right.
In April.
Right.
That's an infinite game.
So you keep cultivating the attributes that allow
and
you
so on.
to
that
play at a certain
now
skill.
That title just comes on its own. It comes on its own.
Right.
Right. You're actually just pursuing.
Right.
Yeah. So even coming to the books, not setting out to be, oh, I want to be a best-selling author. I want to write well.
Right.
I want each chapter that I write to come out and to write well. And when Deno reads it, he gives me good feedback.
Right.
That. By doing that, the other ambitions that you have of becoming a good author, best-selling author, renowned, blah, blah, blah,
they're accomplished in the process.
Exactly. Yeah. So play the infinite game.
Right.
Yeah,
and I think that's a fantastic challenge, man.
Yeah, it is.
I've been playing the infinite game, man.
It is.
Man, it really resonates with what I keep becoming, man. I mean, it's just a beautiful. Folks, man, you need to just get your copy, man. We can't go through all of them, as he said, man. Yeah. These are 31 chapters, 31 interviews, 31 great leaders. This and this, I mean, it's that way. Man, these are great lessons, my friend. And I can only tell you, you need to get a copy for yourself and just a chapter a day, man. That's all you need, man. Take it, absorb it, assimilate it, inhale it, marinate on it. I think I hear the term marinate. Yeah. These are great thought leaders, man. And then if you can just pick a day, a chapter a day, marinate on it, reflect on it, let it have its transformational work inside of you, in how you think, in how you perceive things, in how you just hold yourself, in the attributes you build, and in the quality of person you become. Then I can tell you, man, if they did it, you suddenly might be also on your way to that location, becoming even a greater version of yourself, man. You know what, Casey, man, I can't let you go before you just mention a little bit about this book.
Yeah.
This is your third book.
This is my third book. And this is a very different book. Of course, it's a biography. So these were business books.
Right.
This book I wrote, actually I wrote it just immediately after the CEO X Factor because of a tragedy I went through. Of course, this is my only brother who passed away in a car accident.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, so I wrote the book to immortalize him.
Right.
Talked about his journey, say who he was, what he did, his achievements, humanized him, immortalized him, because now, of course, there's a book for all eternity that will talk about his life that, 200 years from now, people will wonder who Kim Il-won was and what did he do. And so I did that. Also, the book, all the proceeds from the sale go towards his the education of his children. So that's also really helped.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That was a personal project. Been well received. Was really well supported by family, friends, and even a far field. Yeah. So that's my third book, a biography.
Right.
Yeah.
To your brother.
Yeah.
And you said every proceed goes to supporting the family.
Yeah, to supporting his kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful. 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 Man, that must have been a very special book for you.
Yeah, no, it was. You know, I said these ones were written with the head. My brother's book I wrote with the heart. Yeah.
Because I can only imagine even how emotional it gets.
Yeah, and it was through interviews. And it was the third reason actually was the fact that it was a therapeutic process.
Right.
It was a part of my journey of healing. Of course, you'll never heal when you lose a very close family member. In this case, my only brother. But it really helped in my dealing with grief.
The grief.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Dealing with grief.
Right.
Yeah. And I'd encourage anyone actually who has lost someone. In my case, I'm a writer. You could be a singer. Write a song about your person. Could be an artist, paint something, whatever you are. I think it will be, and even writing, man. Writing is not difficult. I was telling you, you must write your own book.
Wow.
Writing is not difficult. You can even write your own.
I need to.
Yeah, you need to.
You
need to. You're gonna do it.
We're gonna do it.
And
yes,
this is you and I, Deno.
Right.
We are gonna host Goldmine show.
Right.
I'm going to be the interviewer when your book comes out. I'll interview you about your book.
Let's do it.
We've shaken on it.
Let's do
so
it.
Now you've committed.
It's on record.
It's on record. I love it.
It's just our pledge to support to get it done.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm always here for you.
When I look at the quality of work you've done, man,
I'm here for you, bro.
Yeah,
I'm here.
Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. But really, I think this is truly special.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a one book you've done by heart.
Yeah.
I see you talk about his days in school.
Yeah.
Rivals and departure. Tree.
Yeah.
He's also at Alliance.
Yeah.
And all.
And all the challenges that he had in work. Yeah. In marriage.
But I'm just curious, in your writing, did you have to talk to friends and other different folks?
So I interviewed over 50 people, I think, for the book. My mother, my siblings, my uncles, his friends, his girlfriends before he got married, his wife. Yeah, I interviewed a lot of people, his colleagues. And then just had to piece it all together.
Right.
Yeah.
But I suspect that it must have also introduced you to your brother in a version you possibly didn't even know him on.
I'm telling you, I realized, man, you think you know a guy?
Right.
Yeah. And also for me, because I live in South Africa and he lived here.
Right.
There are aspects of his life that I didn't know. Right. Yeah. And I was like, oh wow.
So now you know him in a better way.
I know him. And now I know him. I mean, you can never know 100% of a person, but I got to know a lot of. Yeah, and it was also lessons learned. Right. I think I interact with people differently now. Because you know, even very close people, you really don't know some of the things that they're going through. They won't tell you.
And especially men.
Yeah, especially men.
They're just going to put a veil. We'll talk about football, politics.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like some of the things that he was going through, I had absolutely no idea he was going through them. Yeah. And so even, you know, some of the things I wish I knew, I would have been able to approach them in a different way. Yeah.
But think about it, isn't that why then we as men sometimes are also going through situations that possibly we're not handling that well?
Yeah.
We won't talk.
Yeah.
We will go through stuff, but we won't talk. And shortly we begin to retreat and withdraw. We're not showing up. And we're also not raising the next generation any better.
Yeah.
Because I guess we are wounded warriors sometimes. So you don't even know how to raise the next generation.
Exactly. That's true.
And in many quarters, it says it shows that men need to show up differently, maybe.
And I think also we need to, we need to coach men and try and break the culture, because some of it I think is cultural, where we have this hardcore persona maybe from our own backgrounds that encourage us not to be vulnerable. Yeah, and I think it's to our detriment.
Well, I hope we pick a lesson or two. But I also hope then in writing it also helped you deal with grief.
Yeah, it did.
I suspect you never get over it, but maybe you make some steps.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, helps you and gets, because the one thing with grief is that you must, of course, you will always miss the person. You will never ever shake off the loss. No one, I mean, someone that you loved, the loss you'll never forget. I don't think you'll go a day without thinking about them. But you will not be in that what's it called, the zone of depression. Right. Yeah, because you can get very depressed, very down. Life can't stop. Right. And life must continue at some point. Right. Yeah, so you mustn't stop living. Right. And that helped me. Right. You know, not to get that point where I'm not living. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Wow. May he rest in peace, man, and thank you for just immortalizing him, and I pray that you guys continue getting the strength.
Thank you.
Just to carry things through.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And of course, even the thought that the proceeds from it would go to supporting the children is in itself truly noble. Yeah. It's truly noble. Sometimes I see us doing many fundraisers, and there are many ways of doing it. Yeah. But I guess interacting with his life as a path to it.
So I call it a labor of love, because I invested my time into it. Spent lots and lots of hours writing the book. Right. Yeah, and of course I'm giving you something tangible. It's not just to say, give me 2,000 shillings for school fees. Right. It's like, here's something that I'm giving you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
That you can go and it's deep and it's written, and I think you learn something from it.
Absolutely.
A lot of people who got the book, maybe they got the book out of, let me support a cause. Yep. And lots of them have come back and said, oh wow, dude. Yep. I learned a lot. Oh, I related a lot. A lot of people told me about the relate. Right. Got guys who've told me, I also had, separation in my life, and I was reading about your brother's book that touched me, reminded me of what I went through. And I read other people told, one of my favorite things that I wrote in the book was the full sermon from his wedding, the day he got married. Right. Brilliant. I read those words and I was just thinking, wow. Even personally, as a married guy, wow, these words here are powerful. Right. And they just remind you, because I think we forget. Forget what marriage is about. Absolutely. Forget the beauty that it can be. But just going, because I had to go, talking about not just interviewing people, I had to go and watch every piece of material that they are with, every video that was available of him. Right. Including his wedding video. Right. Had to go and watch it from start to finish and write about how that day was. Right. And so capturing that, the part about what marriage is about was really impactful. I mean, he went through like Money Enough, which is a program
by Person Bevy.
Yeah, by Bevy. Yep. Bevy's notes, I went and read it, read what he wrote in his notebooks, documented that, also helped me personally as a man. Right. So
just out of curiosity, doesn't it bring the raw emotions as you go through it?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's something that, of course, is
has an emotional toll on it.
Of course. Yep. Of course. It's not like the others. Of course, you can just talk about this CEO does this.
From the head.
Yeah, from the head. Right. But from the heart,
it's a different discussion altogether. Yeah. No, well done, man. I mean, I agree with you. Labor of love, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and I'm glad I did.
Massive labor of love.
I'm glad I did.
Yeah, well done. Maybe as we close it, man, CFO East Africa.
Yes, CFO East Africa.
And I can see on the cover you've got my friend
Rispa.
Yeah.
Our cover girl.
Yeah, she's your cover girl, man. Yeah. Looks pretty cool. Yeah. Tell me about this. Yeah.
Okay, so CFO actually it's tied with Masters of Money. When I wrote Masters of Money, the guys who own CFO in South Africa got in touch with me. They're like, oh dude, we are looking, do you want to partner with us in East Africa to launch CFO East Africa? CFO East Africa is a community. So it's not a magazine. Magazine is part of it. It's not a website. Website is part of it. It's not events, it's a community. So it's having a community of CFOs where these CFOs can be able to have a platform where they can come and vent and talk about their issues and new things. We in fact had a big event on Thursday with 100 CFOs, the top CFOs. Think about all between the two events that we've had, I can guarantee you everyone who's a top CFO in East Africa has been engaged. And for the meetings in Kenya, all the CFOs in Kenya have been involved. So it's in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda. And here we are basically capturing their thoughts, creating community peer-to-peer, and that's basically what we are doing. So the publication is just one of the things that we have.
I can see you have heavy ones, of course, starting with RISPA herself.
Yeah,
East African Breweries.
Yeah.
I see my friend Dilip from Safaricom.
Safaricom is there.
I see my friend Lawrence from KCB as well.
Yeah.
And a couple more across the pages.
Yeah.
So effectively, you're building a community for them.
Yeah, a community.
The goal being...
So, actually interesting is that some communities already exist. Like if you think about marketing, they've got so many marketing events and so on. CFOs, I don't know, maybe it's the nature of their jobs. They are not want to get out of their shell and commune and fellowship together. So that is the mission. It's just to create a space where they can be able to fellowship, and to be able to basically, deal with the challenges that they're facing. So we had a first event in October. We had Safaricom CEO as a keynote speaker. Right. Peter Ndegwa, and Peter Ndegwa is a former CFO. Right. So he was saying, guys,
you're right.
If you want to become a CEO, this is what you need to do.
So he shares his own journey.
He shares his own journey, and he says, even now, I can tell you as a CEO, this is what I want from my CFO. Right. And then the CFOs learn, okay, so this is what the psyche of a CEO is. Yeah. So that's one of the themes. We had the event on Thursday was the Technology Man versus Machine Summit, where we had the South African CDO of the year, Chief Data Officer of the year, who's a Kenyan, come and speak and tell the CFOs, guys, this is what the AI revolution means, and this is what you need to think about when it comes to technology. And we had panels, we had roundtables for them to just sit and discuss and to actually give their opinions on where technology is gonna go, and what they think about it. Ask them. We did a surveyed them and asked them, do you use technology, right, and so on. And so that's what we were going to be doing for the community. Yeah, having conversations, meetings, publications, that kind of thing. And then in a while we are going to do, next year our intention is to have CFO awards, where we basically crown the CFO of the year in East Africa.
I suspect it must do a minimum of 3 things for them. Create a community where they can bounce off stuff and a network around it. I suspect it also does help recognize and appreciate what it is that they get to do. But of course, when you bring folks like Peter Ndegwa, for example, it also then helps them to figure out, how do I connect the dot between where I'm at and where it is that I want to go, and speak into the expectations and what it is that they need to be forward looking at. And it's a massive contribution, KC, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
I just keep asking myself, man, I got to come all the way from Joburg and get this done.
So, as
he's Kenyan, he's giving back to
and it's also my channel and my foothold to come back home, because this means in 2024 I'll be here 4 times a year, which is more than any other time in my 24 years outside of the country. Yeah, so it's also an opportunity to always be coming back.
Absolutely.
And, meeting with friends and family.
One of the things that I think I take out of this discussion is not about rehearsing what the problem is. It's recognizing that within us, we have what it takes to become part of the solution. But the solution never becomes a solution until it is executed. And to your earlier point, it is not just about being passionate about it. It's about taking some action around it. It's about building the competencies around it. And rallying your entire network and all the resources that you have built over this time, just to be able to make such meaningful contributions like what is on the table today.
Awesome. True that. Very true, my brother.
Man, I'm proud of you, brother.
Thank you. Proud of you as well.
I am really proud of what you're doing, man. Lots to learn. Lots to learn. Lots to learn, man.
Coming from you, that's deep.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. And I can tell you, I look forward to hosting you here.
Thank you.
I needed that wisdom spewed out, and all of us just being able to just grab our pieces here and there. And I keep saying, man, part of the Goldmine show view is that then if one guy picked a thing out of this conversation and transformed their lives or made a contribution that makes an impact, then this show will have served its purpose. It's not about the multitudes.
Exactly.
It's not about the multitudes.
It's a contribution. It's a contribution. I like your passion for positivity.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Passion for positive change and being a change agent.
We've got to, man. Yeah. We've got to. Well, I mean, as you said it, life is once. Yeah. And you want to be sure that then within that once, so someone said if you live it well, then once is enough.
Oh, yeah.
Once is enough.
Yeah.
And you just want to make your impact, your contribution, and be sure that you left a world better than you found it.
Amen.
That's all we seek to do.
Amen,
That's all we seek to do.
Amen. Asante sana.
So grateful that you would come, and thank you so much, KC. Thank you so much, KC.
And I enjoyed the chat.
You did?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Fantastic, man.
Awesome discussion.
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. Well, folks, man, I hope you've been able to pull something that makes some impact in your own life. We went through the CEO factor in a couple of the conversations held there, the 40-70 rule. I don't know what really stood out for you. Was it the 40-70? Was it the innovation? Was it becoming the change agent? What exactly? Was it the infinite game? What exactly made a difference for you? But as we said, man, more than anything else, man, you've got to keep becoming, because if you know how to make your first million and become what it takes and build the attributes, and sometimes it's a change of mind, change of heart, change of attitude, and all of that stuff, then you're possibly well on your way to the second, the third, the fourth, and you keep going, man. And I just want you to share with us what exactly stood out for you. What do you think you could implement right about now? What do you think could become that shift that if you engage that gear, it takes you to the next level, man? There is a lot of content available, and I want to invite you one more time, pick a copy of the CEO X Factor and actually ask yourself, what is your own X Factor? Pick the Masters of Money, fantastic book, man. Connect with some of these journeys, and humanizing leadership, humanizing folks is important, and I think we talked about it. And of course, to the CFO community, well, KC got you, CFO East Africa. I don't know whether CEO East Africa is coming up.
Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah. Well, until next time, thank you so much for your time. Don't you forget to subscribe to the Goldmine Show. Let's keep building a great community that believes in this greatness on the inside. And I want to remind you, and I want to be that constant reminder that you are greatness, my friend. And the last thing you ever want to do is to mortgage that greatness or quit on it, man. Keep working the greatness inside of you. Keep working that brilliance on the inside of you. And let's keep building a great Goldmine community that believes in our collective greatness, man. Until next time, God bless you. Thank you so much, KC, man.
Thank you.
Kitabu is coming.
We have agreed. You're writing it. I'm interviewing you. We're waiting. And I'll support you in the journey.
And you're supporting the journey,
I've
man.
committed on camera.
Appreciate it, man.
Cheers.
God bless you, my friends, and keep becoming. Man.
Cheers.
God